Hello everybody and welcome back to Lobotomy lore video. Alrighty, so in this episode we are going to get through probably half of the remaining abnormalities that we have to go. And without further ado, we're just gonna get right on in with Happy Teddy Bear. An abnormality that resembles a large, raggedy teddy bear. It's missing some fur and only has one eye. The old ribbon around its neck hints that it may have received much affection from its previous owner. There is a name on the ribbon, but it is too tattered to be discernible. It seems that it knows that it's been abandoned and looks dejected. Excerpt from the counseling log. I was on night patrol. I didn't feel the need to pay attention to Happy Teddy since, well, it was harmless for the most part. I just looked inside the containment unit to check on it. Teddy was hugging someone tightly. I thought it was the employee who was in charge of, Teddy for a while, working late. But something was odd. I entered the unit and called his name, but they didn't answer. I immediately pressed the emergency button to call in reinforcement. Turns out, I had been in a coma for 8 hours. They were in Teddy's arms the whole time. An old letter, stamped with rejected. Remember what was written in the employee manual? Do not have personal feelings towards abnormalities. At first, I didn't get what that was supposed to mean. Does it even make sense to develop any emotion towards those monsters in the first place? It's okay. They're monsters. Between the two of us, we can call them that. Happy Teddy Bear was the second abnormality you took charge of. I guess you must have thought that not all abnormalities are monstrous after seeing it. The figure of an old, abandoned teddy bear may have brought up old memories of yours. Teddy seemed to like your hugs. Yeah, it would actually produce more energy when you were around. And in no time, they put you in charge of Teddy. You probably felt some kind of responsibility for it, right? I started getting worried as you visited Teddy's unit more often. It felt as if you were visiting an orphanage for volunteer work. It seems Teddy saw you as its new owner. Maybe you'd have been happy to hear that. But, you see, Teddy never wanted to be separate from its owner ever again. You probably always promised that you'd return. But it couldn't understand. I heard that you miraculously survived, and that they spent an hour trying to separate you from Teddy's embrace. Though others may forget about you, I will always remember you. May there be a miracle. H.E. Bear Paws. The stuffing spilling out of it hangs miserably, as if to represent the innocence that was forgotten over time. Its adorable appearance makes it something that might even appeal to a child as a gift. It's evident that using this equipment recklessly will cause it to tear, so extra caution is needed. Some sympathetic employees felt sorry for it and asked for it to be repaired. However, the outcome of the repairs was unforeseeable, so the proposal was rejected. Do not underestimate the weapon's power because of its fluffy exterior. The equipment is made of material that may have been fluffy once, but now it just looks shabby. As with any other ego, any attempt to stitch it up is ill-advised. The memory that began with a warm embrace ended with abandonment. The stuffing spilling out of it hangs miserably, as if to represent the innocence that was forgotten over time. Red shoes. A pair of elegant red women's shoes. The design is antique, but there is no telling where and how they were made. It overwhelms the mind with the urge to try them on. The changes that occur from wearing the abnormality are first visible in the eyes of the wearer. The next observable change is that the wearer is unwilling to take off the shoes. It will also act upon any and all desires that they may have subconsciously suppressed. If someone attempts to hamper them from acting on their desires, or tries to take off the shoes will control its host, which sometimes leads to murder. It is unknown whether the host's will is involved in the process, but taking into consideration the sharp increase of one's desires and aggressiveness, the host's primal urges seem to remain intact. Excerpt from counseling log. Redacted was a nice person. Well, they were also kinda a celebrity. They always told us that our job was something to be proud of. He knew how to deal with all kinds of abnormalities, but it was our biggest mistake to let them enter that containment unit. We never thought a pair of shoes, of all things, would do any sort of harm. At some point, was wearing the shoes, grinning from ear to ear. It was, well, it was quite strange. It wasn't a smile, it was... Blood was all over the place. The tapping of the shoes echoed in the corridor. I closed my eyes and played dead. I saw one of my colleagues' heads rolling on the floor. The shoe stopped right in front of me and stood still for such a long time. Eventually, they moved past me, and that was right when I passed out. I heard they couldn't take off the shoes and had to cut their legs. No one ever saw again after that. But those who have been here long enough will recall the incident. Footage from corridor camera Z3493. So the work on your part is all done, right? I just finished mine. That little match girl is still in the same state. It's so frustrating. Well, want to grab some coffee at the lounge?
You know, there's something I've been thinking about for a long time.
Let's talk about it when we get to the lounge. I'm just too tired right now. Hey, are you wearing shoes? Only staff footwear is allowed during work.
That's not important. What's important is that we're alone at the moment.
What are you talking about? Wait, what exactly are you wearing on your feet? You didn't wear it, did you?
I've loved you for a while.
Take it off. Now. Do you even realize what you're doing right now?
I was thinking about why you wouldn't love me back. It's Emily, isn't it? You were so busy looking at Emily, you didn't even notice me, right?
Is that an axe you're holding? You're bleeding from your ankles. I'm begging you, please take that off.
So all I need to do is get rid of Emily. Wait here for a bit. It won't take long. You have to stay still till I come back.
Please snap out of it. Please.
If you wanted to stop me, you should have done that the day we first met.
Stunned with their weapon, and went to the lounge. Fortunately, no one else besides was harmed, including Emily. Was soon removed from the company database. They were entirely aware of what they were doing. They admitted that the shoes only encouraged them to do what they always desired. A response team handled the suppression of... Afterward, the shoes ran away. The thought of shoes just running away on their own is really good. Tearing his ankles off their body. It took a total of 23 minutes for them to be suppressed, contained, and returned to their containment unit. Died from excessive blood loss. Only sustained minor injuries, but elected to resign due to excessive psychological trauma. Excerpt from a research log. We received the report that employee was alerted by the shoes and was roaming the corridor. We immediately ordered employee F3054 to suppress her. She was a veteran employee with vast experience in suppression, so we expected her to suppress a female employee without trouble. But she didn't return. And when the others found her, employee F4002 was unconscious with both her ankles severed, while employee F3054 was maniacally trying to remove the shoes from the severed feet. HE, Sanguine Desire. Its tenacity couldn't be exterminated even after the legs were cut off, and it bored its way through the woods to come back to us. Most employees have heard a single word of tragedy of the past. The axe may seem light, but the wielder mustn't forget that it has hurt countless people as a consequence of poor choices. The weapon is stronger when used with an employee with a strong conviction. However, the moment you're blinded by desire, there is no way to wake up from the dreamlike throes of obsession. The lace looked like it would fit with the formal dress, just as when it was worn by a girl in the distant past who had a beautiful smile. Someday, she may make her way to the grand ballroom with bloody shoes on. Make sure to stay alert, as to not repeat the tragedy. Nothing there. Hello? An abnormality whose appearance resembles a human, but cannot and should not be human. It periodically devours employees and wears their shell. The skeletons and organs are misplaced during the process, so it takes a bizarre form. The abnormality does not have a tongue, however. It has no knowledge of speech, and as such cannot talk. It can only make meaningless sounds. There is no telling what's inside its shell, but its skin continuously wears down, so there is a need to change and maintain the outer layer. It is insensible to pain. It may break its own bones or cut itself open to escape through a small crevice. Bit by bit, we discovered that this abnormality may be evolving. It demonstrates behavior similar to the character of the person who used to be its shell. It even makes attempts to equate itself with human beings. When it escapes, it wears the skin of the person it killed and mimics them. Then, without any sign or forewarning, it reveals its true/second form. In its true/second form, its resemblance is much similar to that of humanity in comparison to its earlier form. The new form is confirmed to possess bipedalism, properly aligned organs, and the addition of greater physical strength. All the employees are afraid of this form. A warning of something. It has been confirmed that it has escaped and stood on 2 feet. There is only one thing you can do. Straighten up your posture, gather your hands neatly, and pray to whatever you believe in and observe the situation as it unfolds. Excerpt from a counseling log. Just like how we observe abnormalities as employees, nothing there observes us. Then it puts on the shell of an employee and thinks of itself as the employee that just died. The sight of that thing eating one of us is horrifying beyond words. Just trying to think about it might drive me mad. Heading to its containment to check the state of its shell is a toil on your mind, too. Imagine that a colleague of yours you just chatted with a few days ago is now sitting in that room, neck snapped, guts exposed, walking on all fours, drooling like a beast. That's not all. When I was still a new employee, no one else was willing to enter its containment unit, so I was forced to go to work with it. It looked even worse than it does now. It was in the shape of a horribly deformed human. What's worse, it tried to mimic humans, doing stuff like looking into a mirror, mumbling to itself, or trying to fix its skeletal structure. It's as if it was trying to mimic us. Who knows? It might get good enough to casually walk among us one day. Warning: only employees level 3 and higher are permitted to read this document. This recording is of a call from the containment unit's emergency phone. Phone systems are installed in every room and of abnormalities of risk level HE or higher to enable quick threat response. Please pick up, please pick up. This is a containment unit of nothing there. The Emergency Response Department, or ERD for short. Hello, this is the Emergency Response Team. What's the progress? I need a stun gun right now. There's an emergency happening right now. Can you please specify the reason? The abnormality. It's ripping up the employee. Excuse me? It's killing my colleague. We'll respond immediately. Please identify the employee being attacked. It's, wait one sec. Their name's Control Team. I'm also Control Team. Confirmed. What's currently happening to your colleague at this exact moment? Yeah, please just hurry. We need a weapon to control the abnormality. Oh god, this is... What's happening? The abnormality is attacking my colleague. It's literally ripping them apart. I can't do anything. I repeat, we need a weapon to control the abnormality. The emergency response team has been dispatched. They'll arrive shortly. What's happening now? Is it still attacking your colleague? Yeah. Oh, no. I think it's done now. Has it stopped attacking? No, I mean, my colleague's... he's dead. Yeah, he's dead, all right. How can you be so sure? Well, it's because he looks... he's... Has he been ripped up somehow? What body parts are damaged? All of them. Excerpt from a counseling log. Just like how we observe abnormalities as employees, nothing there observes us. Then, it puts on the shell of the employee and thinks of itself as the employee that just died. It mimics the employee's usual behavior, the way they talk, likes and dislikes, and every other visible trait. We can only guess how carefully, and for how long, it has been observing the employee to imitate them. What I'm trying to say is, we can't treat it like some dumb, scary monster. Even now, it could be strolling about, wearing the shell of someone we know. This abnormality is becoming more and more like a human. Its transformation is getting faster, too. I get goosebumps just thinking about it. If the time comes that we fail to recognize it, that will be the day the company falls. We must stay ever vigilant when dealing with this abnormality. The following is a recording of the abnormal behavior an employee exhibited in their last moments after they became a shell of nothing there. Manager. Man, you've been looking for the manager for quite a while now. You've been acting really weird today, you know? That weird smile and all. Anyhow, I hope we can get pasta in the cafeteria for dinner today. I'd love some of that with thick bacon. Oh, we just got an emergency notice. It says that the last employee to work with nothing there should go to the counselor's office immediately. Wait, wasn't that you? Hey, say so. Manager. The second employee proceeded to take immediate action upon hearing that. However, nothing there tore out of its shell of the first employee, revealing its beginning form. The recording only includes audio files, so what exactly happened, or what kind of behavior the employee exhibited, still remains a mystery. The shell with nothing there inside tries its best to mimic the behavior of the employee it tried to kill moments ago. The actions of the last employee it eyed, their final words, those sorts of things. And the many shells cried out one word. Manager. Aleph, mimicry. The yearning to imitate the human form is sloppily reflected on the ego, as if it were a reminder that it should remain a mere desire. When the unfamiliar and otherworldly eyes stare at you, you will feel a chill up your spine. If pushed to the limit, one can yield it. It can deliver a powerful downswing that should be impossible for a human. It takes human hide to protect human flesh. To protect humans, you need something made out of humans. Even though it is not the skin of a human, it is still akin to that barrier which protects us. Employees using this equipment may lose the last bits of love for humanity that they may have left. Singing machine. It takes the form of a long cuboid machine. At first glance, all it seems to be is a simple industrial grinder. However, the existence of it having an individual will meets the criteria to be classified as an abnormality. When approached, or touched, the employees will become delirious and throw themselves into the abnormality's mechanical body. Afterward, the machine's ventilation fan will quickly shut off, and the sound of the abnormality operating can be heard from within. This process takes about 5 minutes. After a few experiments, we have concluded that the abnormality desires to gain music from this interaction. There is no detailed research into this abnormality's music. However, there is a hypothesis that it has a special characteristic that attracts humans in correlation to their specific behaviors or psychological counseling records. If one of our employees has been determined to be addicted to the music, they will need to be treated quickly to prevent any collateral damage. Excerpt from counseling log. I just wanted to write this observation report and get out, but he was acting odd. I warned him not to get too close, but took one step closer. He said he'll let me hear a fantasy. Then he opened the lid and jumped into the machine. The lid closed and a loud noise came from inside the creature. There was no way of knowing what was happening, but I was too terrified to do anything. In the dark, I realized that thing was playing an instrument, crushing and cutting his body. It was creating a rhythm, and I was contemplating my horrific realization. The lid opened again. Bits and pieces were in there. So little that you had to wonder what happened to the rest. Notice. Must read. Symptoms of addiction to the music of singing machine. 1. Attempts to bring other employees to the containment unit of singing machine by physical force. 2. Dilated pupils. 3. Greatly reduced concentration and cognitive abilities. 4. Refusal to listen to other forms of music. Please list any additional symptoms that are found and immediately report any employees that are suspected of the noted symptoms. Excerpt from the incident log. Date: Employee M1840 went missing in the company. 2 days later, on the part of a corpse was found inside the singing machine. Genomic analysis revealed that the corpse belonged to the missing employee. The employee was a new hire who had only worked for the company for 3 months, and they had no record of an assignment to work with the abnormality. The culprit was found to be employee who was in charge of singing machine. Confessed after extensive investigation. I know it's crazy, but I had to hear that music again. It was stuck in my head for months. I performed all kinds of experiments. When the machine takes in a cat, it plays for 1 minute. A large dog, 2 minutes and 30 seconds. But nothing could compare to the music it makes when it eats a human. It might sound ridiculous, but I feel satisfied having heard it once more. H.E. Harmony. It may look like a deteriorating machine at first, but the music it makes captures its audience more than any other instrument could. The wielder must dedicate himself in return. After all, art is a devil's gift, born from despair and suffering. Never stop performing until the body crumbles to dust. Warm-hearted Woodsman. A mechanical abnormality whose humanoid body is composed entirely of galvanized steel. It holds a giant axe with both hands, but does not show any activity, as if it's unable to move. The friends were imperfect in one way or another, so they helped each other to fill what they were lacking and embarked on a journey to make their wishes come true. The Scarecrow wanted a brain, the Tin Woodsman wanted a heart, the Cowardly Lion wanted courage, and Dorothy wanted to return home. The one they thought to be the Great Wizard instead gave the Woodsman a lead heart.
But you're a machine. That means you were built to serve humans, don't you understand? Machines don't need a heart. Good job making it all the way here, though. Take this as a compensation. Be sure to tell everyone waiting for you that your wish definitely came true.
Some left with satisfaction. The friends departed and were never to be seen again. The hard, cold lead was depressing. The Tin Woodsman couldn't agree with this. In anger, he swung his axe through the wizard's heart. The warm heart was pulsing vigorously. He shoved the lead into the wizard's now empty chest. For the first time in life, the woodsman started laughing at the sight and felt a pleasure he'd never had before. Grabbing a chunk of mushy hearts, he shoves it into his chest. There will never be enough hearts. Once a woodsman, he now fells people instead of trees. There is a forest full of hearts. No matter how many he cuts down, the forest still remains dense. A kind person would carry a warmer heart. When the heart is lost, the woodsman will fall to his knees in sorrow, clutching his empty chest, as if begging for the only thing he has left not to be taken. H.E. Logging. A versatile equipment made to cut down trees and people alike. Perhaps sharpening the axe was the one thing it didn't neglect. The blade is always shiny. And the armor has the exact same description. Apocalypse bird. Known to come when the world is filled with sin. Many employees fear the advent of this abnormality. To talk about this bird, we first need to tell the story of the Black Forest. We must remember the forest that was once so peaceful and beautiful. And the apocalypse shall follow. The Tale of the Black Forest. Once upon a time, 3 happy birds lived in a warm and lush forest. The birds had no names, though the creatures of the forest will call them Big Bird, Long Bird, and Small Bird. Everyone lived freely and happily together in the peaceful forest. The birds wanted the forest to be safe more than anyone else. That way creatures from the outside could visit and have fun. It was a warm and sunny afternoon when a stranger visited the peaceful forest. He was a traveler, pioneer, and prophet, but at the same time, he was a nobody. He wanted to enter the forest, but the birds found him suspicious, so they didn't let him in. The stranger, angered, told the birds as he left,
"Soon a tragedy will befall the forest. It will be tainted with the misdeeds and evil, and there will be one constant conflict. The tragedies will only stop when a terrible beast appears and devours everything. The sun and moon will shine upon the forest no longer. The forest will never go back to what it was before."
The birds worried about the prophecy. What if conflicts really break out and a beast shows up to harm the forest just like the man said? That's when the birds decided to become the guardians of the forest. They loved this forest more than anyone else did, so they wanted to protect the creatures living in the forest and keep the peace. Big Bird, with its many eyes, decided to watch over the forest for intruders. For Big Bird's eyes could see very far, and see the things that we cannot see. Then somebody said, "But what if the beast shows up in the middle of the night, when the sky is dark and everyone is asleep?" Worried, Big Bird burned all of its feathers to make an everlasting lamp. Now the creatures of the forest were under Big Bird's constant watch, day and night. To keep the forest's peace, Longbird weighed the sins of those who entered the forest, for Longbird's scale was fair and just, and could weigh any and all kinds of sins. Then somebody said, "But what if the scale doesn't tip in either direction someday?" Worried, Longbird made a scale that always tipped to one side. That way every judgment would yield a clear verdict. Small Bird decided to punish the creatures' wrongdoings with its beak. Then somebody said, "But your beak is so small, no one would ever find it hurtful." Worried, Small Bird tore its mouth wide so it could swallow any creature in one bite. No one could visit the forest anymore, and bad rumors about the forest began to spread out.
"I heard terrible things happen to any creature that enters the forest."
The Big Bird is always watching the creatures of the forest. There's no freedom.
"The Longbird scale isn't fair at all."
"A Small Bird's punishment is so scary." The birds got upset. "We work so hard to protect the forest. Why doesn't anyone appreciate our effort?" Fewer and fewer visitors came to the forest. More and more creatures were complaining. Fights broke out daily, and yet the birds continued to work even harder to make the forest peaceful again. But No, this forest is so vast and wide, the three of us aren't enough to protect all of it. But there is no creature to protect the forest but us. If we combine our power, we could be stronger. The day when Big Bird's eyes, that could see hundreds of kilometers away, Longbird, who could judge any sin, and Small Bird's mouth, that could devour everything, united into one. Darkness fell upon the forest. Creatures screamed in terror and fear at the sight of the bird, and the forest soon fell into mayhem. Then, in the middle of the chaotic cries, someone shouted,
"It's the beast! A big, scary monster lives in the black, dusky forest!"
"The beast is here?" The three birds, now as one, looked around, but there was no one to be seen. The bird began to prowl the forest, looking for the beast. The forest would be in trouble if the beast really showed up. But there was nothing. There was no creatures, no sun and moon, and no beast. All that was left was just a bird and the Black Forest. Rumors say that there is a terrible beast in the Black Forest, where no one lives. Survivor testimony.
Every single light in the facility went crazy. It kept flickering and flickering. I couldn't even use my lighter. Then, this warm light shone through it all. It looked like a waning twilight or a growing sunrise. Though, as we all know, sunlight can't make its way into our facility. Everyone silently gazed at the light. Sudden darkness and a weird ray of light were enough reason to be frightened. It was scarier than anything gory we'd ever seen. It was true fear of the unknown itself. Something from afar was coming our way. Incandescent lights like stars from outer space were marching towards us. It looked like Big Bird's eyes, but it wasn't that abnormality. I could hear these long arms scratching the floor. Someone broke the silence with a whisper.
"That guy over there couldn't run away in time."
There was an employee kneeling on the floor. Perhaps he couldn't sense the danger approaching him. And once he noticed it was too late, he couldn't even scream. Nobody would have been able to then. He just meaninglessly struggled to move his legs, desperate to run from the beast. There was no heroic act of someone standing up against the monster. Not even a yell to warn him. Everyone was just watching him, waiting for the terrible thing that was about to happen. Each step sent a tremor through the whole facility. The monster was moving with such slow steps, but it seemed so fast. In the blink of an eye, it devoured the nameless employee in one bite. And right after that, everyone started screaming in chaos. I had gone through handling countless suppressions, but that day, for the first time, I regretted ever joining the company. I was certain I wouldn't get out of there alive. This helplessness overwhelmed me. I couldn't even think about fighting back against the monster, and many others were feeling the same. I think I'm the only one who stayed sane enough to write this among all the survivors. The company will never tell our newbies about the existence of that monster. However, I wanted to leave them with a warning at the very least. That's why I'm writing this.
Aleph, Twilight. Just like how the ever-watching eyes, the scale that could measure any and all sin, and the beak that could swallow everything protected the peace of the Black Forest, the wielder of this armament may also bring peace, as they did. The three birds united their efforts to defeat the beast. They could stop countless incidents, but you'll have to be prepared to step into the Black Forest. Alrighty, I believe that is going to do it for this episode of Lobotomy Lore. Thank you guys so much for watching. These were some of the longer stories. So, it may not feel like we read a lot, but I'll tell you what, I certainly feel like I read a lot. So, in the next one, we will grow ever closer to finishing all of the lore of the abnormalities. I'm thinking maybe 1 or 2 more episodes after this. We'll say 2, be safe. Probably 2 more episodes after this one, and then we will have read all of the abnormalities lore in the Lobotomy Corporation. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.